Usually when we talk about a criminal investigation on this deep dive, there's this expectation of precision.
Right, like a neat little package.
Exactly.
For-
A crime happens, the yellow tape goes up, the forensic team walks in, and they just sort of point and say, there it is.
Yeah, there's the evidence.
Right. You have a physical scene, you find the weapon, you dust for fingerprints, and, crucially, you find the victim.
It's a very binary way of looking at justice. We really like things to be visible, we want things categorized neatly because physical evidence is just so intuitive to understand. If a window is broken, we can literally see the glass on the floor.
But then you step into the world of these transnational, multi-jurisdictional investigations, and suddenly that traditional forensic model just completely breaks down.
It shatters.
Yeah, it really does. So today, we're doing a deep dive into a scenario where law enforcement had to build an airtight murder case without a traditional crime scene.
Which is incredibly hard.
Right. Without a confession, and honestly, without a body. And to understand how they managed to do that, we have to look at the sheer volume of digital and physical evidence collected by the FBI and international authorities.
And we're talking about the disappearance of Ana Maria Henao Knezevic.
Yes, exactly. And the mechanism behind that case building is really the core of what we're looking at today. For everyone listening, you got to understand that in the modern era, a perpetrator might successfully hide a physical body.
They might use vast geography to their advantage, like huge expanses of land.
Right. But erasing their digital and telemetric footprint, that is virtually impossible.
Because the infrastructure of our daily lives is always watching, and more importantly, it's always recording.
Always. So let's look at where this specific digital trail actually begins. Because before we trace this wild, 1,600-mile path across Europe, we really have to start with the foundational motive.
Which takes root in South Florida.
Exactly. So we're talking about Ana Maria, a 40-year-old Colombian-born naturalized U.S. citizen, and her estranged husband, David Knezevic.
Who also goes by Dusan Knezevic.
Right, yeah. He's a 37-year-old Serbian-American dual citizen.
Yeah.
And they had a 13-year marriage.
Yeah.
But this wasn't just, a standard domestic partnership.
No, not at all. This was a multi-million-dollar business empire.
Right. And to understand the escalation here, you really have to understand the architecture of that empire.
Yeah, because they built a highly successful corporate portfolio together. The primary engine of this wealth was EOX Technology Solutions, Inc.,
which provided specialized corporate IT support for South Florida businesses.
Exactly. And that is a high-margin, highly profitable commercial enterprise. It generates a ton of cash flow.
Wow. Yeah.
And then they had a secondary venture, EOX Capital. This was a vacation rental, property management, and real estate holding firm.
So you have, liquid corporate assets on one side and hard real estate assets on the other.
Which is a brilliant setup, financially speaking.
Right. But when a relationship fractures, as theirs did in late 2023, following an extramarital affair, dividing a complex structure like that is just a nightmare.
Oh, it's incredibly complex.
Yeah. So Ana Maria sought what most people would consider a pretty standard, clean division, right? A 50-50 split of their joint assets.
Which, honestly, in the context of a 13-year marriage where both parties demonstrably contributed to the growth of those entities, that is entirely standard from a legal standpoint.
Especially in Florida, right?
Right. Florida is an equitable distribution state. That means the courts aim for a fair, often equal, division of marital assets.
But David just flat out rejected this proposal.
Yeah, he countered with a highly disproportionate 25-75 split. In his favor, of course.
Of course.
And beyond just the percentages, he attempted to structure the settlement so he retained functional financial control over the bulk of the corporate funds.
Like he wanted to run everything.
Basically. He was offering her what was described as a restricted monthly stipend.
Think about that. You spend a decade building these companies together, and you're essentially offered an allowance.
It's extremely demeaning.
Totally. So to escape this high-conflict environment, Ana Maria relocates to Madrid, Spain, in December 2023.
She rents an apartment on Calle de Goya.
Yeah, in the upscale Salamanca district. So she gets some physical distance. But here is where the first immutable pieces of evidence come into play.
The digital evidence.
Right. Investigators recovered Google Cloud voice notes, revealing her absolute rejection of his $25.75 offer.
And in these notes, she insists that formal divorce papers must be filed in court by the end of January 2024.
So let's examine the mechanical importance of those Google Cloud voice notes. Why does that matter so much more than just a text message or a witness?
Well, if you're a prosecutor trying to establish a timeline of premeditation, Verbal arguments are notoriously flimsy.
Because it's a he said, she said kind of thing.
Exactly. Witnesses misremember or it devolves into conflicting testimonies. But a cloud-synced voice note, that carries metadata.
Right.
It contains an unalterable timestamp, a geographic location ping, and the exact audio waveform of the conversation.
So it's basically a permanent ledger entry of the conflict.
It is. That late January deadline she established wasn't just a threat. It was a legally binding catalyst. It put a ticking clock on his financial control.
Wow. And right as that clock is running out, on January 25, 2024, the preparation phase begins in South Florida.
And the suspect makes 3 very distinct moves here.
Let's walk through them. First, he withdraws $10,000 in cash from his bank.
Okay.
Second, he goes to a Home Depot and buys heavy-duty stretch wrap and duct tape.
Right.
And third, he buys a new laptop from Best Buy. Now, I'm looking at this combination of actions, and there's just a glaring contradiction here.
Oh, massive.
Right. I mean, you pulled 10 grand in cash, presumably to get off the financial grid, to avoid leaving a trail of credit card receipts while you're traveling.
Which is smart if you're trying to hide.
But then, on that exact same day, you walk into a massive retail hardware store and buy materials specifically designed for physical constraint and concealment. Doesn't that just completely undermine the attempt to go dark?
It's a fascinating cognitive disconnect. Like, the cash withdrawal is a sound logistical maneuver if your goal is international evasion.
Because cash is king, right?
Exactly. Cash provides untraceable liquidity. You can buy fuel, food, and lodging across borders without ever pinging a banking server. It severs that immediate financial telemetry.
Okay, sure.
But walking into a big box retailer, that shows a total failure to grasp how modern retail infrastructure works.
Because of the cameras.
Well, not just the optical cameras, it's the inventory management system.
Wait, really? The inventory system?
Yeah, think about it. When you buy a roll of heavy-duty stretch wrap,
Right.
the point-of-sale system logs the exact second that specific SKU, the stock-keeping unit, leaves the inventory.
Oh, wow.
So if investigators later find stretch wrap at a scene or infer its use, they can query the inventory databases of major hardware chains in the suspect's geographic radius.
So then match it up.
Exactly. That database matches the timestamp of the purchase to the overhead security camera footage.
That is wild.
So while he thought the cash made him invisible, the retail acquisition created an undeniable chronological anchor of premeditation.
He literally bought the tools for a physical intervention before any crime actually occurred.
He did.
Okay, so the tools are acquired, the financial deadline is looming, and we shift from preparation to execution.
Which requires a massive change in geography.
Right. On January 27, 2024, he departs Miami International Airport. But he doesn't fly to Spain, where Ana Maria is living,
No, he flies to Istanbul, Turkey.
and then connects to Belgrade, Serbia.
Which is a very, very deliberate routing choice. We really have to look at how international aviation databases track passenger movement here.
Okay, how does that work?
If you are planning to commit a crime in Madrid, flying direct from Miami to Madrid or even Barcelona places your passport stand directly in the jurisdiction of the offense.
Oh, I see. So the Spanish authorities would have an immediate record of his entry into the country.
Exactly. It would be a huge red flag. By flying to Belgrade, Serbia, where he holds dual citizenship, remember, he is establishing an Eastern European baseline.
The baseline alibi.
Right. If investigators pull global flight manifests, the data just shows him landing in Serbia. The aviation database registers his arrival, but it never registers a subsequent departure to Western Europe.
Because 2 days later, on January 29, he stops flying and starts driving.
He rents a dark blue 2019 Peugeot 308 from a commercial rental agency in Belgrade.
And from there, he undertakes a 1,620-mile drive.
Yeah, that's roughly 2,600 kilometers across the continent.
He drives through Croatia, Slovenia, Italy, France, and finally into Spain. Now, for those of us listening who are used to the concept of, like, hard border checkpoints, showing your passport to a guard in a booth, explain how this physical transit actually works. Is it just an open highway between all these countries?
Yeah, he is exploiting the mechanics of the Schengen area.
Right, the Schengen Agreement.
Exactly. The agreement essentially abolished internal border controls between 29 participating European countries.
So no booths.
No booths. Once you are inside the zone, driving from Slovenia to Italy or Italy to France is functionally no different than driving from Pennsylvania to Ohio.
Wow.
There are no mandatory passport control checks, no customs inspections stopping every single vehicle.
So he basically assumes a frictionless drive.
Yes.
But he knows there is still automated surveillance on those highways. I mean, there have to be cameras.
Right. He isn't totally oblivious to that.
So to counter this, he physically removes the rental car's legitimate license plates.
And replaces them with 2 stolen plates during the transit.
Yeah. One stolen Serbian plate and one stolen Spanish plate.
And this brings us to the technology of ALPR automated license plate readers.
Okay, let's unpack that.
European highway networks, particularly the toll roads, are absolutely saturated with these optical character recognition cameras.
Go everywhere.
Everywhere. They are mounted on overhead gantries, and they record the plate, the speed, and the trajectory of every single passing vehicle.
So by swapping the plates, his strategy was basically to pollute that data stream.
Precisely. If the Spanish police later look for a Serbian rental car connected to his name, they won't find it.
Because the overhead cameras recorded a completely different, unrelated Spanish license plate entering the country.
Right.
It's a very analog solution to a digital problem.
It really is.
He's literally unscrewing a piece of metal on the side of a highway to spoof a massive network of government cameras.
It's so much manual effort.
The sheer fatigue of this is staggering. You're driving over 1,600 miles, crossing multiple countries, manually swapping plates, all to obscure one vehicle in Madrid.
And this is where we see a fundamental misunderstanding of automotive technology.
Right.
He treated the car as just a physical metal box. He thought the disguise was entirely on the exterior.
But it's not.
No. Modern vehicles are effectively rolling data centers. The Peugeot 308 has an engine control unit, an ECU, and an embedded GPS module.
Wait. This isn't like the GPS app on your phone that you can just turn off, right?
Exactly. It's completely different.
Okay, explain how that embedded module works. If he doesn't have his phone connected to the dashboard, how is the car still tracking him?
Okay, so modern fleet vehicles and rental cars have embedded SIM cards hardwired directly into the chassis telemetry system.
So they have their own cellular connection.
Yes, they independently ping cellular towers and global positioning satellites. And they do this to provide the manufacturer or the rental agency with diagnostic data, mileage tracking, and location services.
Oh, wow.
It operates entirely independently of the driver's personal devices. You can't just swipe it away or hit airplane mode.
So he spent days worrying about the cameras outside the car, completely oblivious to the fact that the car itself was silently recording his exact longitudinal and latitudinal coordinates every few seconds.
He brought a digital witness with him the entire way.
That is incredible. Okay, so this methodical, grueling 1,600-mile transit finally culminates at Ana Maria's apartment on Calle de Goya in Madrid.
And this brings us to February 2, 2024.
Right. And the timeline here becomes incredibly compressed and specific.
Yes, the intersection of physical tampering and digital logs gives us a very, very clear window of intervention.
Let's walk through it step by step. At 1:42 p.m., street surveillance captures Ana Maria entering her apartment building carrying a bouquet of flowers.
And this is significant because purchasing those flowers represents her last documented active banking transaction.
Okay. Then at 7:00 p.m., network logs confirm she conducted a scheduled video conference call with a friend.
So her routine is completely normal.
The environmental baseline is totally stable. But at 9:27 p.m., the surveillance camera in the lobby of her building records a man entering.
And he is wearing a motorcycle helmet and a reflective vest.
He's adopting the visual profile of a delivery driver.
Exactly.
Now stop right there, because I have to push back on this behavior because it makes no sense to me.
It's jarring, isn't it?
Totally jarring. You have a suspect who just spent a week driving across a continent, swapping stolen license plates, explicitly to avoid being captured by cameras.
Yeah.
Why on earth would he then walk into a well-lit residential lobby wearing a motorcycle helmet indoors directly in front of a CCTV lens? That is an incredibly high-profile physical intervention for a guy trying to be a ghost.
It is a massive behavioral shift, and honestly, it illustrates the friction between planning and execution.
What do you mean?
Well, in the planning phase on the highway, he had distance and control. He could manipulate the plates in the dark on the side of the road.
Right.
But in the execution phase, the environmental realities just forced his hand. He had to cross the threshold of that building to get to her.
Okay.
And he knew modern European apartment buildings have lobby cameras. So, lacking a sophisticated digital bypass he couldn't hack the camera feed, he resorted to brute force.
He just covered his face.
He used a physical disguise because he had no other way to defeat the optical surveillance.
And he didn't just rely on the helmet either. 3 minutes later, at 9:30 p.m., the tampering begins.
Right.
He takes a can of spray paint and just coats the lens of the lobby camera.
Which is so brazen.
He also tapes the lobby door lock open to ensure he has an unhindered exit route later.
And this introduces two entirely new vectors of physical evidence.
The paint and the tape.
Exactly. When investigators later secure the scene, they don't just see a blacked-out camera. Forensic teams utilize gas chromatography and mass spectrometry to analyze the chemical residue of that spray paint.
Oh, wow. So they can break it down chemically?
Yes, this allows them to identify the specific manufacturer, the batch number, and the chemical composition of the paint.
And the same goes for the tape, right?
The exact same goes for the adhesive on the tape. He is leaving a highly specific chemical and material signature right at the point of entry.
So 30 minutes after he paints the camera, at 10:01 p.m., cell tower data registers the final authentic text message dispatched from Ana Maria's phone.
Her last actual communication.
Right. And then at 10:30 p.m., we have another surveillance hit.
An internal elevator camera.
Yeah, one he presumably didn't know about, or maybe just failed to reach. It captures the helmeted man exiting the elevator.
Only now he is rolling a heavy, structured suitcase.
The timeline is so tight. And what the Spanish National Police find when they eventually breach her apartment is perhaps the most concerning piece of the whole puzzle.
It's chilling.
There's no trace of blood, no biological material indicating a violent struggle.
Nothing.
There is no sign of forced entry on her specific apartment door lock.
So, how does law enforcement interpret a completely clean scene in the context of a missing person?
Yeah, that's the question. How do they?
Well, a forensically sterile environment in this specific context implies rapid, bloodless incapacitation.
Because if there was a fight,
Exactly. If there was a kinetic struggle, a blunt force impact, a laceration, it is incredibly difficult to clean biological evidence to a level that defeats luminol or modern forensic lighting.
especially within a tightly constrained 60-minute window.
Yeah.
Like he only had from 9:30 to 10:30.
Right. You can't scrub an entire apartment in an hour. So the absence of blood points directly toward chemical incapacitation or highly controlled physical restraint.
And when investigators match that sterile scene in Madrid back to the January 25th purchases in Florida,
The heavy-duty stretch wrap and duct tape?
right, the methodology becomes terrifyingly clear. He utilized materials designed to restrict movement without causing external hemorrhaging.
He neutralized her without leaving a biological trace.
Okay, so the physical crime is completed, the suitcase is removed, but the suspect still has a massive problem.
He has a logistical gap.
Right. He needs time to get back across Europe before anyone realizes she's gone. So he attempts to engineer a digital proof of life.
Because he needs to artificially extend her digital persona to delay the missing person's response.
If her friends think she just left voluntarily, the police won't start pulling CCTV or cell tower records yet.
Exactly. It buys him the days he needs to drive back to Serbia.
So on the morning of February 3, David reaches out to a Colombian woman. And the context of this relationship is just wild. He actually met her on a dating app back in October 2023.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
He asks her to translate 2 specific messages into what he calls perfect Colombian Spanish.
His cover story for this is that a Serbian friend is writing a movie script and needs authentic colloquial dialogue.
He even sends her a photo of a fake flight ticket to Bogota to make the story look legitimate.
And this is a textbook, albeit deeply flawed, attempt at social engineering.
Elsa.
Well, he understands his own limitations. He knows he does not speak authentic Colombian Spanish.
Right.
And he knows that if he manually types a message to her friends, his syntax, his vocabulary, and his phrasing will instantly expose him as an imposter.
So he uses a native speaker as a proxy to craft the deception.
Exactly.
And the translated texts are then sent from Ana Maria's actual phone to her best friend, Santa Ramo.
The message is read, and this is a quote, "I met someone wonderful. He has a summer house 2H from Madrid. We are going there now, and I will spend a few days there. Signal is spotty. I'll call you when I get back."
And then a follow-up text says, "Yesterday after therapy, I needed a walk, and he approached me on the street. Amazing connection, like I never had."
And simultaneously, another friend in Barcelona receives a text with the exact same conceptual narrative.
Like meeting a man going away to a house.
Right. But this second text wasn't translated by the Colombian woman.
Oh, it wasn't.
No, it was translated by a generic computer program, and it contained really unnatural automated translation errors.
So Santa Ramo and the Spanish friend flag these instantly. They don't just think it's weird. They know immediately that it is fraudulent.
Right away.
Why is it so easy for our close contacts to spot a digital imposter, even when the language at least in the Colombian woman's case, is technically correct.
Because human relationships are built on highly specific behavioral baselines, especially in digital communication.
Like our texting style.
Yeah, we all have distinct cadences, the way we use punctuation, the length of our sentences, the specific emojis we default to, our capitalization habits. These basically form a digital fingerprint.
Oh, that makes sense.
Furthermore, there is the psychological baseline. Ana Maria's friends knew her core personality.
Right, they knew her.
The premise of her abandoning her life to go off-grid with a stranger she met on the street completely violated her known psychological profile. You cannot override a decade-long behavioral baseline with perfect Colombian Spanish.
He tried to hack the language, but he completely failed to hack the psychology. And this whole translation scheme collapses from an angle that is just profoundly modern.
This part is fascinating.
The Colombian woman who provided the translation, her mother decides to run a simple Google search on David's name.
Just a quick search.
She finds news articles about Ana Maria's disappearance. And in those reports, law enforcement and friends have released the final text messages.
The mother reads the article and literally sees the exact movie script dialogue her daughter translated being quoted as the final words of a missing woman.
It perfectly demonstrates the vulnerability of criminal compartmentalization in the internet age.
It really does. He assumed that a dating app match in Colombia existed in a vacuum, entirely separated from a missing persons case in Spain.
Right.
He underestimated the interconnectivity of global search engine algorithms and the natural curiosity of human beings. A simple query collapsed his entire operational firewall.
So the text messages failed to buy him the time he wanted.
The authorities are alert.
But the suspect still has to get home to solidify his Eastern European alibi. And this brings us to the return trip, where the vehicle telemetry provides the hard data that breaks the case wide open.
The post-defense condition of the rental car is a masterclass in forensic evidence generation.
Okay, let's jump to March 15, 2024. He returns the Peugeot 308 to the rental agency in Belgrade.
The agency runs their standard intake inspection, and the discrepancies are massive.
First is the odometer. Let's do the math on this. The car has an extra 4,800 miles on it.
That's 7,700 kilometers.
If you rent a car for local use around Belgrade, you might put a few hundred miles on it. 4,800 miles is the exact mathematical equivalent of a Belgrade to Madrid round trip.
The raw mileage destroys the local alibi immediately.
Just immediately.
But the physical alterations he made to the vehicle before returning it reveal his specific anxieties during the return transit.
Oh, like what?
Well, the rental agency notes that heavy, dark aftermarket tinting has been applied to the rear windows. Additionally, 2 commercial agency identification stickers have been meticulously scraped off the bodywork, and the license plate frames themselves have been altered.
Let's talk about the window tint. Why spend the time and money to tint the windows of a car you were just going to hand back to a rental agency?
It goes back to the highway infrastructure we discussed earlier.
The ALPR cameras.
Right. The cameras on European toll gantries don't just capture the license plate. Many systems utilize infrared and high-resolution optical sensors that capture a silhouette of the cabin interior.
To verify seatbelt usage and passenger counts. Right?
Exactly. So he applied the heavy tint for one highly specific reason: to degrade the optical penetration of those highway cameras.
Oh, wow.
He needed to ensure that the infrastructure could not record the presence of the heavy structured suitcase occupying the rear passenger compartment during his drive out of Spain.
He is basically fighting a war against optical sensors.
He is.
Spray painting the lobby camera,
Yes.
tinting the glass against the highway cameras. But again, he couldn't blind the car itself.
No, he couldn't.
Because while he stripped the stickers and changed the plates, the Peugeot's internal GPS module was executing its programming.
Unblinking.
When authorities pulled the ECU data, the GPS logged a highly specific off-highway detour.
And this is the crucial moment.
The data showed the car leaving the main transit corridor and spending an anomalous amount of time in the heavily wooded area of Cogollo del Cengio, located in the Vicenza region of northern Italy.
That specific localized data point changes the entire trajectory of the investigation.
Because without that GPS log, law enforcement would be looking at 1,600 miles of highway across 4 countries.
Which is impossible. A search area of that magnitude cannot be cleared. But the embedded SIM card in the chassis, pinging a satellite above Italy, effectively handed the FBI a map with an X on it.
Which brings the timeline from the historical events of early 2024 directly into the active, ongoing reality of today. because that GPS detour in Italy is the epicenter of the current search operations.
The investigative objective completely shifts from establishing the suspect's movements to recovering the physical evidence he deposited during that specific detour.
Right. So as of April 2026, the search for Ana Maria's remains is highly active.
FBI case official Tim Augustiniak is directing the operations.
And the Bureau has authorized a reward of up to $25,000.
The primary zone is intimidating, though.
Yeah, they are searching the alpine forests, deep ravines, and rock crevices of Cogoa d'Ochendio, situated along the Vicenza Highway corridor. How does a team even begin to search an environment like that? It's not an open field, it's mountainous topography.
It requires an integration of digital data and physical assets.
Like, how do they combine them?
They start by triangulating multiple data streams. They take the vehicle's GPS coordinate logs and cross-reference them with the timestamp data from the Italian toll booth exits.
Okay, that makes sense.
By calculating the distance between the toll booths and his average speed, they can determine precisely how many minutes the vehicle was stationary in those off-road resting areas.
Ah, so that narrows it down.
Right. This creates a highly defined radius.
And once they have that radius,
They deploy joint drone operations. Drones equipped with LiDAR light detection and ranging can map the forest floor through the tree canopy.
looking for what exactly?
They're looking for ground disturbances or anomalous depressions that might indicate a burial site. Simultaneously, specialized cadaver canine units are deployed to sweep the accessible ravines on foot.
But they're also crowdsourcing the forensics in a really compelling way, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
They aren't just telling local hikers to keep an eye out for disturbed earth. The FBI has released visual descriptions of two highly specific, durable items that were confirmed missing from Ana Maria's Madrid apartment.
They're asking the public to look for her personal journal and a distinctive neck ornament or necklace.
And these images are on the reward poster circulating in the region.
It is a brilliant utilization of the civilian population.
Why is that?
Because an alpine forest is vast and weather events constantly alter the terrain, law enforcement simply does not have the manpower to inspect every rock crevice.
Right. There are only so many agents.
By circulating images of the jewelry and the journal to local hikers, forestry workers, and residents, the FBI turns the public into a massive distributed sensor network.
It's a very poignant detail. They are looking for a personal diary and a necklace items manufactured to resist environmental decay.
Exactly.
These objects might outlast biological evidence, serving as the physical markers needed to bring her home.
And her brother, Felipe Henao, has been a tireless advocate, ensuring her case remains in the public consciousness.
But while the physical search continues in the Italian Alps, the legal and financial battle concluded back in the jurisdiction where the motive first originated.
South Florida.
Right. The conclusion of the legal phase brings us full circle to the very assets that catalyzed the crime in the first place.
Let's trace the final timeline of the suspect.
David Knezevic returns from Serbia and is apprehended on May 4, 2024 at Miami International Airport.
Federal authorities, led by U.S. Attorney Mackenzie Lapointe and FBI Special Agent in charge Jeffrey B. Veltri, are waiting for him.
And the grand jury hands down heavy federal indictments, right?
Yeah, kidnapping resulting in death, foreign domestic violence, and the foreign murder of a U.S. national.
Initially represented by Ken Padowitz and later Jane Weintraub, the defense strategy attempted to lean on the Eastern European aviation alibi, the fact that he officially landed in Belgrade.
But the digital portfolio compiled by Assistant U.S. Attorney Lissy Elizabeth Monk was just insurmountable.
It is too much.
The GPS logs, the hardware store receipts, the chemical spray paint analysis, it formed a complete interlocking matrix of guilt.
And then the suspect makes his final evasion.
On April 28, 2025, David Knezevic is found dead by suicide in his cell at the Federal Detention Center in Miami.
Paramedics attempt resuscitation, but he is pronounced dead.
Santa Ramo, Ana Maria's best friend, released a statement calling his suicide the path of cowardice and a final selfish escape from accountability.
So, what happens to the legal machinery when the sole defendant dies before a trial even happens?
In the criminal justice system, the death of the defendant essentially terminates the prosecution.
Because you can't try a dead guy.
Right. A court cannot try a deceased individual. From a purely criminal standpoint, the case is closed.
Wow.
And it is highly probable that the suspect believed his suicide would act as a permanent seal, ending the inquiry, protecting his legacy, and cementing his control over the narrative.
But the criminal trial ending didn't mean the war was over. because the Henao family had already initiated a completely different legal strategy.
Right.
In February 2025, 2 months prior to his suicide, civil attorney Adam Ingber, representing the family, filed a massive wrongful death civil lawsuit in Miami-Dade County.
And this is where the legal venue pivots from seeking penal justice to executing a financial dismantling.
Explain the difference for us.
Well, criminal courts require a burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt to restrict liberty. Civil courts operate on a preponderance of the evidence and target assets.
So it's about money, not jail time.
Exactly. By filing the wrongful death suit, the family bypassed the stalled criminal apparatus and went directly after the corporate empire.
And they didn't just sue his estate. They targeted the multi-million-dollar corporate structures, EOX Capital and EOX Technology Solutions.
The lawsuit alleges a conspiracy to hide and dissipate the assets post-crime.
They utilized civil clawbacks to freeze corporate accounts, and they named David, his brother, and several associates.
The filings even probe the professional actions of certain South Florida law firms whose names remain under seal to determine if they were complicit in shielding the illicitly retained funds.
Okay, wait. Explain the mechanism of a civil clawback for a moment. How does that actually work?
When a crime is committed for financial gain, the perpetrator often attempts to rapidly transfer assets into trusts, shell companies, or the accounts of relatives to protect them from seizure.
Trying to hide the money.
Right. A civil clawback allows the court to trace those fraudulent transfers, pierce the corporate veil, and forcefully return the capital to the estate for proper distribution.
So the very 25-75 split he engineered this entire horrific operation to protect is being systematically dismantled in civil court.
Yes.
He murdered to maintain control of a corporate empire, and the civil litigation is currently vaporizing that exact empire.
It ensures that the financial legacy he attempted to secure is entirely stripped of its illicit gains.
It is an incredible shift in the battlefield.
It really is.
Looking back at the sheer scale of the evidence we've discussed today, it is truly humbling to realize how much data we generate.
It's terrifying, honestly.
We followed a trail from a $10,000 cash withdrawal in Florida to an aviation database in Istanbul to a hardware store receipt, down 1,600 miles of European toll roads monitored by optical cameras, into a spray-painted lobby in Madrid, through the behavioral baseline of a Colombian dating app translation, and finally to a silent GPS module pinging satellites from an alpine forest.
The overriding reality is that the era of the untraceable crime is largely a myth.
It really seems that way.
Human beings are biological entities operating within a dense, omnipresent digital framework. Every physical action you take, buying tape, driving a car, sending a text, generates a corresponding digital shadow.
You cannot move across a continent invisibly. The suspect tried to build an analog wall.
Yeah, he thought if he used cash, stripped the stickers off a car, and spray-painted a camera lens, he could vanish.
But he was fighting the surface infrastructure, completely blind to the foundational networks beneath it.
Physical evidence like spray paint fades and stolen license plates can be tossed into a river. But the data, the ECU logs, the cloud syncs, the cell tower handshakes remains intact.
It outlives the physical attempts at concealment.
Always.
Which brings us to the ultimate lingering tension of this investigation. The suspect is dead.
He is.
He silenced himself in a Miami jail cell, taking the specific physical coordinates of Ana Maria to the grave. He believed his death was the end of the story.
And yet, the investigation into his actions is more active and precise than ever.
It forces us to consider a fascinating aspect of modern existence, really.
What's that?
Even after the primary actor is gone, and the physical truth remains hidden in a vast, silent mountain range, the narrative does not stop.
Right.
The truth is still communicating. It speaks through lines of cellular code, through the metadata of a translated text, and through the unblinking telemetry of an automotive engine control unit. Long after the physical world decays and silence falls, the digital ledger remembers forever.